Hey viewers, welcome! My name is Eden and I'm the editor of www.20somethingsoul.wordpress.com. My blog is primarily positivity oriented and the aim is to reach out to other 20-something-year-old students like myself that are searching for advice and inspiration regarding their current college lives. Also, I want to provide support and wisdom. So my blog features a Q&A section where readers can gain some insightful perspective, weekly motivational posts featuring quotes and more, and some self-help tips to promote well-being. Today, I've chosen to review two blogs that touch on similar themes. The first blog, Postsecret.com, is a popular confessional site that uploads postcards weekly sent from readers worldwide confessing all sorts of secrets. The site has had a massive pop culture appeal and is considered to not only be entertaining, but therapeutic in nature. Now I'll share my opinion on 5 positives the site has to offer and offer 5 constructive criticisms. My first pro is the simplicity of the theme of the blog. Over all the years the site has evolved, the scrolling platform with the black background has stayed the most consistent and is very effective. There's no loud conflicting banner or color, which I believe is purposeful and smart because it shifts all of the attention toward the posts themselves. Another obvious pro is the material itself. It's a quirky, original little idea that catered to a need that I don't think many even knew they needed. I like the premise of these different postcards being sent in from people all over because it gives everyone a sense of sort of connectedness. The next thing I want to point out is this huge clickable link to an important external service. The International Suicide Prevention Wiki is pretty much like a database that catalogs helplines nationwide. I also like this small little feature of the blog that allows you to flip the cards over. It's customized to fit the premise and is the best way I can think of to represent both sides of a postcard. My last positive comment is geared toward the use of these widgets on the side here. They keep you updated with other post-secret oriented social media sites. One of the initial cons I wanted to mention was the absence of navigational tabs anywhere else on the site. You seem to only be allowed to view each week's content, and there's no link to contact the editor, no about page, and not even an archive page to view previous posts. This leads to a very plain-looking interface that seems more limiting than expansive and could potentially lose the audience that's looking to view more with immediacy. A second potential issue is how the icons to the other social media sites linked to Postsecret are only readily available when you hover over a post in a particular way, like this. In any other instance, these icons are virtually non-existent, which is pretty problematic for obvious reasons. Another thing to note is that some of the content on the right-hand side is kind of vague. They do appear to be clickable links, but without explanatory content, like a descriptive sentence, it's unclear whether or not they are advertisements and what purposes they each serve. Aside from that, the sizing inconsistencies of the side tickers make for a less than ideal visual aesthetic. My last criticism, oddly enough, is something that I made mention of when praising the blog: the simplicity. I understand why it's sort of stripped down to the barest essential elements, but again, the site has not changed too drastically since it began sometime like in 2005, if I'm not mistaken. It's a little reminiscent of the more dated GeoCities style website pages that we've moved away from. I think incorporating some flash elements or some sort of other pizzazz can still keep the simple setup, but modernize the blog a bit more. The second blog I want to go over was created very recently by a dear friend of mine, a fellow 20-something-year-old named Mark. AMileInMyShoes2016.wordpress.com is his labor of love, a site that very much like a journal chronicles Mark's perspectives on love, relationships, and experiences significant to his life. Again, the blog is relatively new, so there isn't too much content, and I thought it'd be great to go over 5 positives and negatives as another way to help offer constructive criticism, since I'm learning new things about blogging my own self. Now, on to the positives. Since this is a quick little screencast, I can't really dive into all the specifics, but as a fellow lifestyle blogger, I would have to say that Mark's content is interesting. I don't really think he noticed or categorized his material as self-help, but just by reading I could get a sense of who his intended audience is and the lessons he intends to share with them. I don't often run across male-run lifestyle blogs or stories, so that's appealing. The second aspect that came across as integral to a great blog was the ultra-simplistic interface. The post titles are magnified for ease, and there's a simple scrolling function, so browsing does not involve too much work. I think it would probably translate well into a mobile device as well. I also like that when you do click on a post, the side navigation bar clearly outlines all the other features and clickables on the blog. Also, clicking on the very prominent header redirects you to the home page, which is a nice feature to include. Personally, I don't mind the color scheme at all either. The bright blue seems warm and inviting. With all that being said, now it's time to shed some light on some areas of the blog that I feel could use some tweaking. The blog URL was the first thing that stood out. I think the 2016 added at the end makes it seem dated, limits its reach, or signifies that the title may be a widely used cliche. My next critique would have to be centered around the theme itself. I think it isn't the most appropriate choice to display the content he has. He tends to include photos with his posts to really emphasize the theme of the material, so I think he needs something that will showcase everything all in one slot. It's even stranger to me that the blog title is located beneath the photograph header, and I'm assuming that that's just because of the theme itself. The pictures were problematic as well. I would suggest maybe sizing the header or incorporated photos differently because they seem to overwhelm the blog. The quality of the photos could be improved too, as some are seemingly pixelated. Just like this. Another issue was the navigation tabs, or lack thereof. There's a menu tab that reveals his About page, but even the placement is awkwardly positioned and it looks a little lonely. Which leads me to my last and final critique, other pages. Mark's About page really condenses his introduction and the premise of the blog into one little paragraph. I think it would be more beneficial and appealing to separate the blog's purpose from his bio and maybe add a contact page because I know he is particularly interested in receiving some feedback from his audience. Well, that's essentially it in terms of my evaluation. Both blogs have strong and weak points, but I think overall they're both effective. Once again, I'm Eden, editor of the blog 20somethingsoul.wordpress.com, and that's all, guys. Thanks for viewing, and be sure to check my blog out for some more content. Thanks once again. Goodbye.